What's up, you guys?
Is that how I sound?
Yeah, exactly how you sound.
Is that really how I
Yeah.
sound when I do these shows?
What's up, you guys?
This is my wife. You all know her famously from that and maybe that. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm sure all of my viewers want to know. Of course, you're married to me, but what is it like being within like 15 to 20 feet of greatness every Monday, Tuesday night as you try to sleep and I'm screaming, "It's your boy!"
I'm used to it now. I sleep right through it. But I mean, it's very entertaining keeping you in this house.
It is very entertaining. I mean, just think about it, guys. You all don't have to pay anything. She doesn't really have to pay anything, her soul. But yeah. We're going to talk about the Belko experiment, which we went and watched last Saturday. Then I'm going to kick her ass off this show. But I want to have kind of a guest on every one of these members only shows. Later on, I'm going to talk a little bit about WrestleMania, namely how I would lay out a Goldberg-Lesnar match to get the most out of it, because I don't think you can do that same match again. Also, I'm going to tell the story about joining Cage Passion Media, leaving Cage Passion Media, along with that series that I'm doing. So the first thing that drew us to that movie, I think, was the guy who played Merle from The Walking Dead. What's his name?
Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker, yeah.
Yeah.
We saw him in a trailer, and my thing is, when it comes to horror movies, thriller movies, and we don't want to spoil anything for people, by the way.
Yeah.
I like to believe that the thing could plausibly happen. I like to think that whatever happens in this horror movie, this thriller movie, could happen to us in our house, even though I don't want it to. I would like to think that it could. Was that a believable story to you? I mean, now maybe they didn't aim for that, but
I mean, yeah, I could see it happening, especially
in this house, especially in this house.
No, I hope
because
not.
I'm gonna steal. I've got the door. She can't get out, you guys. She's stuck. She didn't have an option.
I will see it happening.
I will say Michael Rooker didn't have as big of a part in the movie as we thought he would based on the trailer. Obviously, don't give anything away, but did that surprise you?
Yeah, because I really expected him to have a huge part in this movie. I was really excited to watch him in this movie. But
he was good in it. He was outstanding in it, I thought.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There were a bunch of people that I didn't recognize, but I think that you and Hannah and Dylan recognized.
I can't think of his name, but Dr. Cox from Scrubs.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was – I know him as the guy from Office Space. What exactly do you do here? That guy.
He says that on Scrubs.
Does he?
He said it a time or two on Scrubs, yeah.
Well, he rules. I like him. I liked him. Now, if I'm rating this movie as a whole, we're going to go a 1 out of 10 scale. We'll go the old school method. C is a 70, D is a 60, B is an 80. What would you give it?
You won't agree with me because you never like any of the movies I do. I'd probably give it a 70, 75.
Trash!
I liked it!
Trash!
I like scary movies. I like thriller movies. I can't help it.
I do too. I just like them when they're good.
It was good.
It was okay.
It was good. It was weird.
Your boy is going to give it a hard 61.
No.
A 61. Now, let me tell you why. The reason I gave it a passing grade is because the writing didn't insult me. Hey,
good.
If you all watch the wrestling shows, you know that I hate to be insulted by the writing, whether it's a movie, a TV show. There weren't any corny phrases. After somebody dies, it's not wipe yourself off. You're dead.
I feel like there might have been one.
There may have been one.
I think.
But I mean, there was. I'm not going to waste a bullet. That one.
Yeah. I
when
liked that,
the person's head gets turned around. Not giving anything away. That's another thing. Did you expect it to be that graphic?
Oh, no. No, I can handle horror movies, but that one just kind of...
Wuss.
That went above and beyond for me.
I was totally all about it. I loved it.
You hate gory movies.
The only gory movie I don't think I liked, there was a spot in Hostel where they slit the dude's Achilles tendon.
Yeah, that was rough too.
And because I tore my Achilles tendon once, I was like, huh?
Yeah, that's rough for anybody.
Huh? The writing in this movie didn't insult me. There were some surprises that I didn't expect. It was a very unpredictable movie.
Yeah. That's for sure.
That's all you got? Yeah.
Well, there's nothing else you can really say. I mean,
Yeah, without
you'll
spoiling.
give things away.
Without spoiling. Yeah, but I mean, there were people that you thought were going to survive, that you thought maybe we're going to make it a little longer, and they didn't. Or people that you thought would die that maybe didn't.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's surprising and interesting and different without it being really good. I felt like it could have used some fine tuning for sure. But like, you know, we've watched some pretty damn good horror movies and thriller movies. What's that one that Matt had us watch, The Canal?
Yeah, something like, I can't remember the exact name, but yeah, that was really scary.
That one was really good. Hush was really good. Hush is an outstanding movie.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
What's it about?
Was that about the blind man?
Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe. That was a pretty good one. We liked it. Not Safe for Work. We both liked that too. In my opinion, this is like fifth, because if a horror movie sucks, we usually figure it out in 20 minutes and stop watching.
Yeah, I liked this movie. I actually really liked this movie.
Yeah, but you watched The Craft a lot too.
The Craft is a good movie.
I brought her on here so you all would stop giving me shit about my taste in movies. Because
I've watched Pulp Fiction. I would like everyone to know, though, I've watched Pulp Fiction.
I did too.
You watched it like after everybody, mentioned it to you on here. Then you watched it. I watched it.
There was no mentioning.
A long time ago.
There was no mentioning. I was harassed and accosted in relation to that stupid, overrated movie. And here's one for you guys. Do you follow the NCAA? All those jobbers I hear out there saying, John Calipari is not a good coach. He's a good recruiter. Quentin Tarantino is a great recruiter. He is not a great coach, because his movies don't need to be 2.5 hours long. It pisses me off.
Django Unchained did. That was
a great movie, though. That was a little different. And some of the, here's my thing. I don't like, they really hammer the point home on some things in Tarantino movies. Yeah. That wasn't necessarily the case in this Belko experiment. I'll tell you what, guys, if you have like an extra hour and a half, it's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. I just wish somebody could have gotten that concept and really taken control of it and made it something special, because it is a cool concept. And cool new concepts as it pertains to horror movies and thriller movies aren't exactly the case anymore. What's the last, outside of the two disabled, where a woman's deaf and a man's blind, what's the last original concept we've seen from a horror movie?
I don't even know.
Don't tell me that Conjuring bullshit.
Oh, no.
That was terrible.
It wasn't horrible.
Let me tell you all a story about The Conjuring. I went there with one of our strength and conditioning coaches, Dylan, Nikita Krylov fan, who you all know, and a buddy named Brandon who trained with me. And we go to watch The Conjuring. Brandon wants to see The Conjuring. The shit that I conjured up on that toilet about an hour ago after the Joe podcast was way scarier than this movie. I pointed at you. I didn't conjure her up out of my shit. So here's why. I went, and I was super broke at the time. I was working for Wrestling Inc., so I was poor. But so I go and I take out a second mortgage on my home to be able to afford the popcorn bucket there. Well, as you all know, I've got some spinal issues, or did, not as much now, but I had 2 bulging discs in my upper neck that run down a nerve in my arm, 2 bulging discs in my lower back that pinch on a nerve that runs down my right leg. Now, what that causes is, in my right leg, sometimes it would have spasms. This is arena seating, so the seating is yeah, there we go. Row, 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 and you're higher than the person below you. I set the popcorn bucket down on my knee and I have a spasm. And the popcorn bucket dumps all on some curly-haired lady's head. There was going to be no fear after that. Everything was hilarious after that.
The Woman in Black was really good. I liked The Woman in Black.
I don't remember that movie.
I don't think you watched it with me. You wouldn't watch it.
Why'd you bring it up?
Because it's a good movie.
I'm not
unique movies, so I liked it.
I'm not Hell, I don't know a movie that I haven't watched with you lately. That's all I do is watch movies
Beauty and
with
the
you.
Beast.
I mean, a movie that I watched and you didn't watch.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't go watch Beauty and the Beast with her, guys. I made my mom go. How was it?
It was really good, actually. It was perfect Disney remake. Really good.
Back to the Belko experiment. As I said, the writing is important. The writing saved this movie for me because it was realistic and creative and a little different. That goes a long way, in my opinion. You gotta do that. You gotta do something different. If they don't have big name actors in it, so they had to do something a little different. And I thought they did that really well. At no point did I for sure know what was going to happen in this movie.
No, and you didn't want to leave your seat to go anywhere because you're afraid you'd miss something. It was so good.
Well,
interesting. It was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's your opinion. It's subjective. Just because you have a wrong opinion doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have an opinion.
I thought it was good.
I would tell you to tell the people where they follow you on social media, but I don't want them to. We've had some stalkers.
Yeah, we have.
Looking at you, Tyler from Chicago.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, that jobber that hopped on your Instagram and was like, "Oh, did she try to sell you on it?" That's slap on sight territory, my friends. That's another thing. You found out last week that the second thing that comes up when you Google Sean Ross Sapp on the recommendations is Sean Ross Sapp wife.
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
A little awkward. A little awkward. I didn't know what to make of that.
And how did you feel when you went to images and saw that none of your images came up?
Pretty good.
People are more likely to believe that Matt Hardy is my wife than you.
Well, I mean, I was okay with it.
What?
I mean, none of my images coming up. I'm okay with that.
Yeesh.
I'm okay with that. I don't know. It makes me nervous. I can't help it.
Obviously, this is our first movie review. We'll review a few others here and there. But I'm going to kick you out.
Fine.
Guys, it's time for me to talk a little bit of WrestleMania. It's time for me to talk a little bit of Cage Passion Media. Hope you all enjoy that little segment. We're going to do stuff like that on these members-only show. The one thing I wanted to talk about was this Goldberg-Lesnar thing. Goldberg isn't going to have a real match. Or at least that's what people think. I think he can. And by real match, I mean a whole lot of smoke and mirrors. I think it's possible to get a good 8 minutes out of Goldberg. Now, I say this one day after I just went back and I was like, you know what? He gets a lot of comparisons to the Warrior. And the Warrior had a comeback match several years ago against Orlando Jordan. I think it was in Spain. Crazy to think, but in Spain at 49 years old or whatever it may be, he went like 17 minutes. And it was an ass-tastic match. It was duty, man. It sucked. And, you wonder, what was he on, first off? I don't want to speculate, but the man was in some crazy shape and hard for me to believe that he got that way naturally. And he was exhausted by the time he got to the ring. And it's like, why can't Goldberg go a few? He's in better cardio shape, I would imagine, than an Ultimate Warrior. But it's like, why can't Goldberg do 8 minutes? There's no reason he can't. So I think they will. And here's how I would do it personally. Now, first off, you got to tease the same finish that's happened before. As soon as that bell hits, either you have them lock up or something like that, or Goldberg just bam, spear, jackhammer. You have to tease the same finish that's happened. But I would have Brock Lesnar kick out at 1. At 1 this time. That is an incredible rush of emotion and a sense of a false finish immediately. I like that. That's what you got to do with matches like this. You have to start them off on a high note, because in a Goldberg Lesnar match, they tried to build last time. It did not work, and it didn't work in their primes. I don't think it's going to work today. So I would have that high spot right there. A minute or a second, Goldberg gets kicked out of, and he kind of stares, and he's like, okay, I'm going to bring it back to him. I'm going to do it again. And that's pretty much like your first 45 minutes or 45 seconds to a minute. He rushes at Lesnar. Lesnar picks him up, F5s him. Or German suplexes him and F5s him. Because that takes up another 30, 45 seconds, maybe even a minute based on how much you sell it. It's a WrestleMania main event. So they're going to milk this shit. They're really going to let it go. And then Goldberg kicks out at 1. After that, then come the smoke and mirrors. Goldberg rolls out of the ring. They tussle about a little bit. Lesnar hits the post. You know Lesnar's getting color. Goldberg's going to be still reeling from that F5. I mean, he is a 50-year-old man who just got F5. The thing is, it's almost like a Mark Hunt in MMA. His offense is really good, but sometimes when he gets clipped with that defense, oh boy, he'll go down in a heap. That's the Goldberg of today. He runs Lesnar into the post. Lesnar gets color. You got color like 3.5 minutes in. Lesnar comes back. They brawl a little bit. Somebody is going through the announce table or into the stairs. One or the other. Maybe both. That's another minute. Setting it up, doing it, executing it. You're at the 4-minute mark. Goldberg tries to recover. Lesnar tries to recover. They've got to get back in the ring to finish this match. Then you transition right into finishes again. German suplex, spear. Goldberg ain't picking up Lesnar. He ain't doing it. But Lesnar's going to have to German suplex him. I would think it's like the only move he does these days besides the F5. I believe that he'll bring the Kimura into play, the double wrist lock, as I call it. If you bring the double wrist lock into play, that's a solid minute of no impact type of stuff that you can get. But here's what I would do. So Goldberg is in the Kimura. Brock Lesnar has him, and Brock Lesnar's on top of him. There was a spot myself and my catch wrestling coach, Jay Grooms, used to do where he would have me in it. I would roll back, and I would be on top of him. They need to do this spot. It's great. Because when you're on top of somebody and they have you in a double wrist lock and they hold on to it, they are putting themselves in an arm bar. Goldberg switches around, gets arm barred, or arm bars Brock Lesnar. Damn, I'm all over the place with this. I'm sorry, guys. I promise when I put this on paper, it makes a lot more sense. And that's a big submission threat. After that, you go into the high-impact finishers. The reversals, the punching out of stuff, the Brock Lesnar reversing a jackhammer into an F5. You pin him. You can get 8 minutes out of that. So that's how I'd do it. Spear, jackhammer, kick out at 1. He runs for the spear. Goldberg grabs him, German suplex, immediately picks him up, F5, kick out at 1. Goldberg rolls out of that ring. Lesnar follows. You push Lesnar into the post. Lesnar gets color. It takes a little bit of time. They brawl a little bit. Somebody hits the stairs of the announce table. The recovery happens. We get the tease of the count out. The guy makes it back in. Goldberg or Lesnar goes for a move, ends up in a double wrist lock. Roll over. Goldberg takes the arm bar. Lesnar's going to work his way up. He's going to work his way up. Then they go right into the finishes. Perhaps Goldberg goes for a spear. He gets kicked in the face. Lesnar goes for the F5. Goldberg gets out of the back of it, hits him with a knee, goes for the jackhammer. Lesnar reverses again. F5, pin. That's a wrap. That's a good 7, 8, 9 minutes based on how you milk it. These two guys, I think they can milk it. I think you can do it like that. Submit questions in the chat, by the way, you guys. I think that's the right way to do it. Jimmy Van says that there is a rumor that The Rock and Hulk are in Orlando. The Rock is in Orlando, Jimmy. Hulk Hogan is in Orlando. He was always going to be in Orlando. I'll let him know that. He's got a shop there or something like that. Tap says, if you give it a 61 SRS, then it must be great. How dare you? How dare you? I got a new feature up on the site called I Was Wrong About Braun Strowman. I thought that guy was going to be ass. I thought he was going to be duty. You never know. Sometimes they just know better than us, guys. I don't know a whole lot of people that thought he was going to be any good. Yeah, his rate of improvement is like that far beyond most. And look at the things he does in the ring. He's unpredictable. He's fun. He's a monster. He lives up to the billing. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, I feel a little bad. I didn't give the dude a chance, and I'm going to be a little more cognizant of that in the future. Because I thought what a lot of people thought. This is just another guy Vince McMahon wants to push down our throats because of the size. He bypassed NXT, at least NXT TV. Sorry, I keep saying you guys. I feel like Tom Phillips going, oh, with every move. Was just trying to pass along a message to Jimmy. So, Braun Strowman in the 80s, I don't think would have had to improve. But he did present day because he had to. And it's pretty fantastic that he saw that and was able to adapt in that manner, because a lot of guys just wouldn't have. A lot of guys would have rested on their laurels. The fact that Braun Strowman saw that, and like I said, the tipping point came to me when I heard that info that he was practicing taking the bump outside. A thumbs up to Braun Strowman. Go read that piece. A lot of respect for that guy, for what he's done. Got a lot of questions about the JBL thing. He called people crybabies for hating Roman Reigns. You're not a crybaby if you don't like Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is not a heel, like as Triple H would love for you to believe that he is portrayed. He's not. He's a guy they want to push really hard, and if they find a good way to push him really hard and make him more tolerable, he'll be like the biggest thing around. He'll be huge. JBL is a guy who shit all over a dude who has dealt with mental health issues. I'm shocked. This is also a guy who may or may not have bullied an assistant writer out of the company by putting him in compromising positions. And yeah, it's just the things that if social media would have been around when JBL was an active wrestler, they would not have anything to do with him these days. And that brute mentality is a nice way to get yourself punched in the face by Joey Styles. I think JBL can be fantastic at what he does. But that towing the company line bullshit and saying that people are crybabies because they think different than you. Now, I mean, I have some fun, like with the Elimination Chamber thing. That's where I draw the line. When you're bitching at the expense of somebody else's health and well-being and their physicality, then yeah, I'm going to make fun of you. If you're bitching because of taste, that's stupid. You know, wrestlers not having to fall onto steel grates, I sympathize with them. I also sympathize with people who don't like what other people like. It's weird. It's weird. Pass along those questions, you guys. Kyler says, has Goldberg ever taken a German suplex? I'm sure he did. He worked with Scott Steiner a bit. I'm going to check this message from Jimmy Van. Says, one of the entrances was blocked at Four Seasons, disrupting a route. Told by Four Seasons it's because Rock and Hogan arrived today. Don't know if that's legit or hearsay. Ooh. That'd be a good one. Get those questions in, you guys. Hey, this is available via audio as well. I get that up usually in the evening and stuff. dinner with my grandfather this evening, so maybe a little later than usual. I was also on the Showdown Joe MMA show today. Jimmy harassing me while I was on the show about intros. Can you believe this guy? Me and Jimmy having it out about intros on YouTube videos during an MMA podcast. The gall. He's so eccentric. He's so eccentric. Somebody's asking me about the Flow Slam thing. Okay, here's the Flow Slam thing. Last night I was watching Joey Janela's Spring Break. The show was a lot of fun. Riddle, Severn went on live. It was a blast. They went on last, and that had a lot of people concerned because they didn't mention the match at all during the broadcast. That had people wondering if Matt was hurt. Thankfully, he's not. I was thrilled to see that he wasn't. That match is awesome. That match is the kind of match that I came up. That's how I learned pro wrestling. My coach, Jay Grooms, would beat the shit out of each other and figure it out. And after our basic training and stuff, that's how we advanced on. So the show, I don't know. I think it was Lenny Leonard and Excalibur. I don't know. And I don't know how much commentating Excalibur's done. I know Lenny Leonard's done a lot. And they would have revolving third guests. And the audio levels on Flow Slam were already off. The music was way too high. The announcers were too low during that period. But the announcers, in addition to not being able to be heard over the music, they would also talk over the ring announcer. That is broadcast rule like day one. And maybe this was day one for Excalibur. But when I sent Flow Slam a message, they kept referencing it on the show. Well, we keep talking over the ring announcers. Hey, it got funny by like the fifth or sixth time. I really did laugh when they said that somebody could have a funeral and they said, well, don't talk over the eulogy guy. Well, yeah, you shouldn't. That was the point. You don't talk when the ring announcer talks. When the ring announcer talks at the desk, you shut the fuck up and let the ring announcer do the job. I'm not exactly a veteran of broadcasting, but your boy went to broadcast school. Your boy went to journalism school. I know a couple of things. I didn't always just sit here at a desk. I'm calling fights on May 27th. It says Excalibur's PWG announcer, isn't he? I don't know if they do that in post or if they do that live. I have no idea. I don't know how their production goes down, but that's like a big no-no. Also, you'll hear it if you ever listen to the Bruce Pritchard podcast and you wonder when he says pronouns, pal, what that means. That would be Vince McMahon telling his announcers, don't say things like, he kicked him in the face. Who kicked who in the face? You got to know. Well, Matt Riddle kicked Dan Severn in the face. So you say, Riddle kicked Severn right in the face. That way you don't have to say, he kicked him right in the face, because if people have their eyes off of the action, they don't know who the hell you're talking about. So that's just little minor things, but I'll go through that one day too, like the ins and outs of broadcasting. One of my members-only shows in the future will be my experience working at Premier MMA Championships on May 27th. I have a couple of teammates fighting there. That's going to be a conflict of interest. I might bury one, though, because I don't like it very much. And, yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that. As always, get your questions in. We got shows Saturday, Sunday. Somebody asked, where are the segues? I'm not doing ads on this. You all signed up, man. That's it. You signed up. You're here. We love you. Nobody else gets to see this. Hey, tell people if you like these. I know it's a work in progress, me doing these type of shows, but let people know that you're watching this members only show and that you like it if you do. And help us out with a 5-star iTunes review. That stuff's cool too. The only show I'll do is check out Anna Bowert's Most Ridiculous. That show is going to blow up overnight one day, and it'll be real good. It'll be real good. Somebody asks something. Let me see if I can get this. Dave Meltzer had an interview with What Culture, lead into your previous workplaces segment, and says he isn't in wrestling, still only an observer. I don't know what you mean by that. But what about that Kenny Omega interview in which he was kind of working or being worked by Kenny? And his comment about Bullet Club selling 500 shirts. Bullet Club sells a lot of shirts. Now, what he may have meant by that, he may have meant all the Bullet Club. like Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, Young Bucks, the Elite, and the Bullet Club shirts, because they sell a lot of merch. Like on any given weekend, maybe they do cumulatively, not individually. So here's what people are talking about. Dave Meltzer did an interview with Kenny Omega when he was teasing leaving New Japan. And he tried to tease that he was maybe going to WWE, and Meltzer played it up. Now, the question is, was Meltzer getting worked, or was he just a part of the work? Either way, I don't have a problem with it. This is a business full of workers. I don't get worked a whole lot. To be fair to myself, I don't, but I have times where I didn't reveal shit because I was worried that I was getting worked, and it seemed so far-fetched and ridiculous that I didn't want to report it because it seemed stupid. Somebody says, do you regret ever not reporting something? I regret not dropping the Ronda Rousey news ahead of WrestleMania because I was told by a very close friend who knew that it was happening, and me being naive, and it was my first WrestleMania working at Wrestling Inc., I was like, I don't want to spoil it. And that can put you in bad favor with WWE. And the thing is, I'm probably already in bad favor with WWE. I don't know. Maybe. I do shows with a guy who says that Triple H can't keep his fucking name out of his mouth. And the day after, I do a show with Shane Helms, who made a joke about Triple H burying people on a podcast. I don't know. Maybe. What are your thoughts on this possibly being Taker's last match? It hasn't been announced that way. I don't think it's his last match. I think that he may have like a Rock Eric Rowan match in the future, like the 6-second deal. Like, why not? We're about half an hour in, so I'm going to get into this story. Oh, and Pat says, Darby Allin, I tweeted last night, Darby Allin jumping out of the body bag like he didn't just get tossed around like a jag-off on Evolve. Yeah, that was a stupid segment. And yeah, I do know that was the guy who jumped off the beam when I was in Texas. And it didn't make any sense last night. That was a stupid-ass segment. Stupid-ass segment. So Cage Passion Media. A lot of you have no clue what Cage Passion Media or Cage Passion Sports is. And I'll explain. I'd bounced around a little bit. I had been writing for Bill Apter. If you all want to hear that story, go check out the previous members-only podcast. My hope in this is that you all learn a little bit about the way journalism works at the high levels, at the low levels, the mid-levels, all that. I was not getting paid for my one wrestling work. I was doing freelance ghostwrite stuff. Like I would write like Lady Gaga's ass piercing or something stupid like that. And I'll never run the ins and outs of that because that's freelance ghostwriting work that I was keeping afloat with. And I was keeping afloat with like student loan and grant money and stuff like that. I called fights for a company named Absolute Action MMA, which is in Northern Kentucky. They've produced, it feels like, dozens of UFC fighters. And some of our fight team would compete there. The guy who matchmaked for them is now matchmaking Premier MMA Championships and wanted me to come call their fights because he liked the way I did work. Well, I would cover their stuff initially. I just wanted to do a report. I was working on a documentary about one of our fighters that ended up not coming about. And I guess they heard me on a radio show or something. They're like, we want you to call fights for us. I was like, yeah, okay, I can do that. Then they were like, well, we wouldn't mind you writing for our website. Cage Passion Media was basically an answer to a site kind of called, I think it was kind of an answer to Bluegrass MMA. It's a pretty successful local MMA website in our area. And I don't know if maybe Absolute Action wasn't getting the fluff coverage they wanted because they wanted to run their fighter interviews and do their promotion. It was a fluff site. And when I went there, I said, well, if you want me to write for your site, it's going to be a lot different. And I got to have a degree of control. They tried me out for about a month writing here and there. And they're like, here are the keys. Take it over. Make it what you want. We'll separate our AMMA stuff. I was like, cool. As long as you list it, that's fine. So I wrote about MMA. And the thing was, I was able to do ad placements, sponsored posts, stuff like that. I was able to make a little money off of it. I would cover things like the Thiago Silva standoff situation. I thought that I had the best coverage of that anywhere. I had some of the best coverage of the 4 horsewomen jump between pro wrestling and MMA. And I had talked them into a few months into rebranding it, because I didn't just want to do MMA. I wanted to cover pro wrestling. I wanted to cover sports if I wanted to. I wanted to cover all this stuff. So I got them to rebrand into Cage Passion Sports. And the numbers, low, not much. But what I did was use that to produce sample pieces. And that stuff is really important. Having sample pieces is crucial. A lot of people ask me, how do I get into it? Make content. That's how. When I see somebody saying, why don't I have a job here? Why don't I have a job here? I would be so good. Produce some fucking content. That's how you do it. So there I produced content. They had a blog talk radio show called Cage Passion Radio. Sometimes it'd be used to preview the MMA events. Sometimes it'd be used to interview people. Like I interviewed Daniel Strauss, current Bellator champion there. I interviewed all kinds of, like from the amateur ranks, like Anna Abrams, a very sweet girl. Jennifer Clausius, if you all follow that woman on social media, if she can put it together in the cage, she has the best personality of any female MMA fighter I've ever seen. She's going to go far. She's got to put it together consistently in the cage, and unbelievable stuff will happen for her. And, you know, it would vary. It would go from amateur coverage to all the way to the top. Cage Passion Media is where I first interviewed a guy by the name of Matt Riddle. And I got to talking to him about, hey, you ever interested in doing pro wrestling? He said, you know, I've given it a little thought, but not that much. I may post that interview one day. It was to promote a Titan FC fight, his last fight he ever had in 2014. So this was 2013 to 2014, we're talking right here. And I was trying some good stuff, but I was way worse than I thought I was. I thought I was like, yeah, anywhere I apply, I should be able to get a job. It's never that easy, at least early on. Nowadays, I may be a lot different. I don't know, because I don't write as much anymore. I'm editing a lot now. So we're here, and you know there were some people. There was a little bit of a feud going on, the Bluegrass MMA, the AAMMA, because now AAMMA wouldn't even let Bluegrass MMA into their shows. What happened was, at the event that I was there covering as media before I announced, they put our table in the back of the room where the cage was set up, because the ringside table was reserved for King Mo, of all people, and Kayla Stahl, a former OVW wrestler. And King Mo was training at OVW at the time. So Kayla, who actually introduced me to all these people, her sister dates Michael Hayes, a guy you all may remember from Tough Enough. He was the fellow who went to Iraq and lost his leg and still made it to Tough Enough, and WWE wanted him. So there were a lot of connections there. It's crazy how networking works. She was like, oh, King Mo, let's go watch these fights. And they brought a bunch of people over. Talked to King Mo briefly, and they pulled out all the stops for King Mo. And AAMMA was always a good show. They got pissy, the Bluegrass MMA people did, and they complained about it on their radio show. So I guess AAMMA was like, we're not giving you tickets to shit anymore. We're not giving you credentials to shit anymore. So that was a bit frustrating, because I liked the people over there, but I really liked the people that I worked with at Cage Passion. Rob Turtle Whitson, who did some ring announcing for a long time. You're not going to find a better dude in the business. He has close ties with Rich Franklin. He is an angel of a person. So I was there. I had to deal with that. I would do Cage Passion Radio. I did Cage Passion Wrestling Radio on occasion. I teased the idea of doing some Reds podcasting as well, which I still want to do. I still want to do some Wildcats Reds coverage, but that was the main thing. I wanted to cover Kentucky Wildcat basketball. I wanted to cover Cincinnati Reds baseball, Cincinnati Bengals football. I wanted to cover MMA and pro wrestling and boxing if need be. And I mean, there were things that there were stories I broke on Cage Passion that a lot of people didn't know about, like Chris Cyborg dropping to 135, or saying that she was. I found that out a little bit before everybody. And Willie Cauley-Stein to the Kentucky Wildcats being out for the rest of the tournament, and what his specific injury was. The shame is that site no longer exists. Whoever owned it, I think it was Billy Donovan, who is the matchmaker of Premier. I think he let that lapse, and I lost a lot of good content. And that's a shame. We did a cool thing on there. Like we did a modern day, who would win a modern day Brawl for All tournament. I got a lot of my friends writing there. Pat Fannin, who writes for us now, did some writing for Cage Passion. It was a cool thing that I could do and really try to find out what it was like to be an editor, because I'd never been an editor before. And that really set the stage, and I needed to do it. Now, a lot of people think that I stopped writing for them immediately after Wrestling Inc. or anything like that, but it wasn't the case. I started to work for Fansided, and I'll get into the Fansided story. Now, some of these stories won't be as long as the other ones. The What Culture story is a hoot, though. That'll be on down the line. I'm doing these chronologically. I worked for Fansided, and Fansided was my priority because it paid. It paid. But what would happen is, I don't want to go into the details. I'll go into the details when I get to that. But if there was content I couldn't use for Fansided, I would go put it on Cage Passion. And if there was a story big enough for Cage Passion at this point, because it wasn't my primary source of income, I would post it there, maybe make some money off of it. Still very much a starving artist at this point, but I mean, I was living. Had to check my bank account before I ate pizza, but I was still living. Went to What Culture, same thing. If I couldn't use something at What Culture, Cage Passion Media. Wrestling Inc., same thing. If I double posted something and Mark posted it, Cage Passion Media. This kept on. I think I published my last thing for Cage Passion Media early 2015. It was like February or March. And Raj said, "What's Cage Passion Media?" I was like, "That's where all my samples came from." He was like, "Well, just don't post anything you're posting here. I'd like if you didn't post wrestling." And I was like, at this point, it wasn't a constantly updated site. It was updated for it was back to where it was before. It was an AA MMA site. And I had little to do with it because I had to make my money, and the sponsored posts weren't getting it done anymore. I wanted to be able to not check my bank account before I ate pizza, which has been the case for quite some time now, several years. But it was crucial. And what I always say to people is, I'll never ask somebody to work for free. But if they offer, I'll do it. And that's how some people got to get started. That's unfortunate, but you got to pay your dues. And I did pay my dues. I did wrestling and MMA writing for free for years. Not every day. But when I did every day, shortly after that, my work came. I got the attention of other places. When I was doing it every week, it wasn't necessarily the case. But when I started churning out stuff for Cage Passion every day, Fansided 4 to 5 days a week, What Culture all the time, you start to see up until the point to where a guy like Jimmy Van is comfortable approaching me with something like Fightful. And I'm able to kind of lead that charge. Cage Passion doesn't exist anymore. It will never probably exist again. You can probably still find our janky-ass logo online and stuff. You can find the radio shows. The old radio shows are still on Blog Talk. And there are some stuff that like you can find like reposts of reviews. Like I posted an Insane Clown Posse Kayfabe commentaries review, and you can find that reposted on like Fago Lovers. if you can believe there is such a thing. I used to drink Moon Mist as a kid. I loved it. But yeah, it's not a site that a lot of people know about. But it's a site that is near and dear to my heart because if not for that site, I don't know if I'd be here. I don't know if I would have had the gumption or the freedom to write about Richard Sherman and the racism that I thought that he faced when he was outspoken. I don't know if I would have had the outlet to cover the Thiago Silva standoff situation live. I don't know if I would have had a creative outlet to write a fantasy booking piece about the 4 horsewomen that got their attention. I don't know that I would have had a place to write blogs that were just my feelings on Raw, where somebody said, "Damn, that's good. Let me have that. I want that for my site." Mike Straw says, "I worked for free for the first 3 years of my career, paid off in a big way because I had a ton of content to provide outlets that were interested." Yeah, that's my thing, man. Like, some people are just naturals. Alex Palowski, a natural. He was to be paid immediately. He wasn't at cage side seats, and we offered him a deal. And then shortly after that, it was full time for him. He's doing great work for us. I mean, he always did great work for us. But yeah, this was the end of me covering wrestling for free, kind of. And we will get into the fan-sided story in the future. But there are still people in relation to Cage Side or Cage Passion Media that I'm friends with, that I work with. Billy Donovan, I'll tell you all right now, I offered to do this Premier MMA Championship thing for free. And who knows, I could walk out of that building and he could say, don't leave without getting paid. I offered to do that for free because of the outlet he provided me at Cage Passion. This is my thank you for this show. Because he's starting something new. He branched away from MMA and the owner of that. And I love Patel, the guy who owns MMA. But he and Turtle Whitson are the reason I'm going to do this show on May 27th. No disrespect to Flow Combat. No disrespect to calling things. This job is my life. This job is what I care about. This job and the woman you all saw standing next to me, that is my life. That's what I care about. I don't really necessarily want to be a traveling announcer. Now, if somebody comes to me and says, we'll pay you a good sum of money or donate a good sum of money to maybe Pope's Love Alive charity or something like that, and work around your Fightful schedule, that's a key. Work around my Fightful schedule. I'd entertain the idea. But everything's relative, man. I said last week, I can't remember what number I put on it, but I'll say this. If WWE offered me $10,000 more per year than I make at Fightful, and I had to move to Stanford, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't hesitate, and I'd say no. This is what I want to do. I want to talk to you guys. I want to get your all's feedback. I want to hang out with you guys and report the news and do all that. Jimmy Van says, thoughts on a podcast logo. Should the logo have your face on it? And thoughts on a podcast name. Somebody pitched a good one. The Hogcast. Yeah. Or does he mean this show? Or our show? I love our Wednesday show. Damn, our show is good. Me and Jimmy Van have a cool dynamic, you guys. Like, we pretty much argued about intros and how I responded to his idea of an intro on Skype. But on Wednesday, we get on the show and we have a ball. And that's one of the things I like working about a Jimmy Van. He's open to input, and if you say no to something, he wants some input. It's a cool dynamic. It's if you have a child, Sean, Hog Ross Sapp. My cat's next name will likely be Hog. Yeah, probably. But that's one of the cool things about working for Fightful is I work for a guy who has been here before. He produced wrestling content, and he moved into a different territory, and he's like, okay, let me apply my new territory to my old territory and make a new territory. That's pretty cool. Of course, that Wednesday show, that's the only place you'll get back behind the scenes stuff. And this show too. Who should I have next on the show? I've got some interesting contacts. There's a guy named Brett Dawson I want to have on. He used to cover Kentucky basketball. Now he covers the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he took a real gamble on himself. And the thing that was really flattering to me is he told me that me taking a gamble on myself really encouraged him to do that. And this is a guy who I looked up to, who I thought was the best Kentucky sports writer, period. And now I think he's the best basketball writer in the world. That's pretty awesome. We have shows Saturday night after NXT, Sunday night after WrestleMania. Guys, thank you all so much. Next time, I don't know when it'll be. It might be Friday. I don't know. I don't know if I'll do these every week or not. It really just depends. Because, we keep giving you content and you all keep fucking downloading it. So, hey, I'm cool with that. But next up is the fan-sided story. You know what? I need to see if Mike Straw is available. That's who I need to see if is available. Because Mike Straw was with me at Fansided. Somebody says, I want Brandon Howard soon after he'd had time to consume any news from Mania weekend. Brandon Howard has some cool stuff coming up. We'll get him on a show. But yeah, I would like to get Mike Straw on the show. Kyler James says, take that, Woj. Woj drops bombs better than anybody in sports. In sports, better than anybody. Till next time, guys, I'm out. Love you guys very much.